Hello everyone and welcome to today's lecture on vegetable poison. So this lecture is divided into two portions. In one portion we will take Castor, Croton and Abrus, and other vegetable poisons we will take in another lecture. So starting with the Ricinus communis, that is also known as Castor or Arundi. Now first of all, let's talk about what is phytotoxicology. So this phytotoxicology is a term used to denote the study of plants that produce or evoke specific deleterious effects on human. So as you can see, this is the castor plant. These are the tall plants and grow all over India. The plants bear lobate leaves with toothed margins. As you can see in the picture, fruit as well as the seed. So the fruits are globular and clustered with spiny projections over capsule. The fruit contains castor seeds. These seeds are flattened oval in shape and are available in two sizes. The large variety seeds are mottled, dark brown in color with shiny hard seed coat. Another variety is the small variety. These small variety seeds are about 1 to 2 cm into 0.8 cm in size and resembles Croton seeds. Now coming to fetal dose and fetal period. So fetal dose, it can be either 5 well-chewed seeds or ricin. Ricin's fetal dose is by injection or inhalation 20 microgram per kg body weight. And if it is ingested, then its fetal dose is 20 milligram per kg body weight. If we talk about fetal period, it is 2 days. Moving on to toxic part of plants, then all parts of plant are toxic, but the seeds are more toxic. If we talk about the toxic principles, so it has mainly 3 toxic principles. One is ricin, that is the toxalbumin. One is ricinin, that is piperidine alkaloid, and then the last one is ricinoloic acid. Now mechanism of action. The seeds are harmless when ingested whole, since the outer coating resists digestion. However, if the seeds are crushed or chewed before swallowing, then toxicity results due to the release of ricin. Biochemically, toxalbumin is a ribosome inactivating protein, that is RIP, capable of inactivating ribosomes and hence protein synthesis. This ricin has 2 polypeptide chains, that is A and B, which is held together by a single disulfide bond. Chain B is a lectin that binds to the surface of the cell to facilitate toxin entry into the cell, while chain A disrupts protein synthesis by activating the 60S ribosomal subunit. Coming to clinical features. Clinical features are abdominal pain, vomiting and diarrhea. Along with it, the person also suffers dehydration, drowsiness, convulsions, delirium, oliguria, uremia, hepatic failure, and the death may be due to multi-organ failure or the cardiovascular collapse. The pulp of the seed contains allergenic glycoprotein, which may cause dermatitis, rhinitis, asthma, and conjunctivitis in allergic individuals. Treatment. If we talk about treatment, then it is mainly supportive. As for example, we have to give IV fluids, we have to give vasopressors, as for example, dopamine for hypotension, and there is no antidote for ricin. We can give activated charcoal if vomiting has not begun and airway is secure. We can also do gastric lavage if the ingestion has occurred within an hour. And the urine should be alkalinized with sodium bicarbonate. This we do to prevent precipitation of hemoglobin in the renal tubules. Now coming to the autopsy finding. So this autopsy finding in GIT mucosa, we find that it will be congested, it is softened and inflamed, and the erosions as well as submucosal hemorrhages are also seen. We find these type of hemorrhages in all the internal organs. Fragments of seed are also found in stomach as well as the intestine. And the serous cavities usually contains the blood. Now the medico-legal importance. Its poisoning can be due to accidental. Then these seeds are used for homicidal purposes also. It is also used to procure the criminal abortion. It is used as a cattle poison. Seed powders may be used to induce conjunctivitis for malingering. Small variety of seeds may be confused with the Croton seeds as I have already described. And it can also cause the anaphylactic type of hypersensitivity in humans. Now moving on to the next vegetable poison, that is Croton tiglium, also known as Jamalgota or Nipala. You can see the photographs, the plant as well as the seed. So this croton is a small evergreen tree with ovate or elliptical leaves, which are narrow, pointed, toothed and 2 to 4 inches long, varying in color from metallic green to bronze. The seeds are oval, smooth, 1 to 2 centimeter long and usually brownish in color. If we talk about the toxic part, the seed, stem as well as the leaves are toxic. And the toxic principle is crotin as well as crotonocide. Crotin is a toxalbumin while crotonocide is glycoside. Fatal dose, 4 seeds are fatal and 20 drops of croton oil is also fatal. Fatal period is 6 hours to 3 days. Clinical features can be due to either ingestion or application on the skin. If we talk about ingestion, there are GIT symptoms such as vomiting, diarrhea, salivation, hot burning pain from mouth to stomach. And systemic symptoms are vertigo, collapse, and lastly, death. If this croton is applied on skin, then it produces burning, redness, and as well as vesication. If we talk about treatment, first thing we have to do is decontamination. After that, treatment of shock with IV fluids and dopamine can be done, and administration of the cold milk may alleviate the GI irritation. Coming to medico-legal importance, accidental poisoning can be there, which results from ingesting croton seeds or oil by mistake, or when taken in large doses as medicine, or by inhalation of dust. If we talk about suicide as well as homicide, both are very, very rare. It can also be used as an abortifacient and arrow poison. Moving on to the next vegetable poison, that is the important one, is Abrus precatorius, also known as Ratti, Gunchi, Crab's Eye or Rosary Pea. It is a slender, perennial climber found all over India that twines around trees, shrubs and hedges. Now you can see there are 3 varieties of seeds. So each seed pod contains 3 to 5 seeds. Seeds are egg-shaped with 5 mm in diameter and having weight approximately 100 mg. Seed has an attractive hard glossy outer shell. The seeds are of 3 types. First one, which you can see, is the scarlet red seeds with a black spot at one end. Second one, as you can see, is the black seeds with a white spot at one end. Now, talking about the fatal dose and fatal period. Fatal dose for Abrin, if it is given IV, is 0.1 to 1 microgram per kg body weight. If seeds are ingested, then 1 to 2 crushed seeds, that is if they are chewed. As many as 20 unchewed seeds may be harmless. If we talk about fatal period, it is 3 to 5 days. Toxic part of plant is seed, root as well as the leaves. And the toxic principles are abrin, abrine, abric acid, glycyrrhizine and N-methyltryptophan. This abrin is a toxalbumin which is similar to viper snake venom. And if we talk about the abrine, then it is N-methyl L-tryptophan, which is an amino acid. Coming to the mechanism of action, this abrine is composed of two polypeptide chains, A and B. And these two chains are connected by a disulfide bond. Chewing or crushing of the seed releases abrine, and the B polypeptide chain, also called as haptomer, binds to the intestinal cell membrane, while A polypeptide chain, also called as effectomer, enters the cytoplasm. So in cytoplasm, this A polypeptide chain acts on 60S ribosomal subunit and prevents the binding of elongation factor EF2, thus inhibiting the protein synthesis, thereby causing cell death. Coming to the clinical features, so the symptoms can be due to either dermal contact, ocular exposure, or ingestion. If we talk about the dermal contact, the skin will be red and rashes will be there. If we talk about eye, then reddening, swelling, and even blindness can also be there. If we talk about ingestion, then there will be a burning pain in mouth and throat and severe vomiting. Abdominal pain will also be there along with bloody diarrhea. There can be cardiac arrhythmias, convulsions, CNS depression, and as well as cerebral edema. Coming to the treatment part, first of all we have to do is gastric decontamination. It can be done by lavage and charcoal. Then some researchers tell that whole bowel irrigation is said to be little helpful. Supportive measures with special emphasis on rehydration. Next, alkalinization of the urine probably has a role in preventing crystallization of hemoglobin and should be considered in severe poisoning. We have to treat the convulsions in the usual manner as we treat, that is with diazepam. If renal failure is there, then it can be managed by hemodialysis. And if we talk about the ocular exposure, then it necessitates copious irrigation with running water for at least 15 minutes. Now, medico-legal importance. First one, it is used as cattle poison as well as a homicidal. It is a homicidal poison. So these two things are done by suis, or also known as needles. Now, how these suis are prepared? First of all, seeds are decorticated and mixed with datura, opium, glass powder, and onion, and then sometimes even alone. Then a paste is made by mixing this powder with spirit and water. Sharp pointed spikes about 15 mm long and weighing 90 to 120 mg are made from this paste and dried in sun. Now, two such suis are mounted on a wooden handle. The handle is struck on the back of a cattle or human. Sometimes needles are kept between fingers and the person is slapped. So this is how these suis or needles work. Now it is also used as malingering. As powdered Abrus introduced into the eye, it produces strong conjunctivitis. And lastly, Abrus is used as an abortifacient as well as arrow poison. So in this part, we will cover Calotropis, Semecarpus, and Capsicum. So first is Calotropis, also known as akdo or madar. It is a perennial shrub growing up to 2.5 meters with branches and sub-branches. It is commonly known as milkweed because of the thick and milky latex, that is sap, the leaves and stem produce when incised. Leaves are approximately 15 cm long and 10 cm broad. If we talk about this Calotropis plant, then they have two varieties. One is Calotropis gigantea and one is Calotropis procera. This Calotropis gigantea has a purple color flowers and Calotropis procera has white color flowers. Fetal dose and fetal period. Fetal dose is uncertain while fetal period is 6 to 12 hours. If we talk about the toxic parts, then all parts of plants are toxic. And the toxic principles, we have calactin, calatoxin, calotropin, euxcarin, and euxcaridin. Clinical feature is again divided into three categories. One is dermal exposure, one is ocular exposure, and the last one is ingestion. If we talk about the dermal application, then there will be redness, vesication, and bullous eruption. If it is instilled in eye, then there will be keratitis, conjunctivitis, corneal edema, and dimness of vision. And if it is ingested, then there will be acrid bitter taste, burning pain in mouth, throat, and stomach. There will be salivation, stomatitis, vomiting, as well as diarrhea. Treatment, first of all, we have to do gastric lavage, we have to give demulcents, then supporting measures. If convulsions are there, then we have to give diazepam or lorazepam. And for dermal or any ocular exposure, we have to wash the affected area with water. Autopsy finding. There will be frothing at mouth and nostrils. Stomatitis will be there. GIT will be inflamed. All the abdominal viscera will be congested. And there will be vesication as well as inflammation and redness at the site of contact. Lastly, the medico-legal importance. So, there can be accidental poisoning. Then, Calotropis is used to fabricate wounds. So, what these malingers do, they may apply the juice to produce artificial bruise or conjunctivitis. This Calotropis is also used in abortion stick to procure criminal abortions. It is also used as a cattle poison. And lastly, the roots of Calotropis procera is poisonous to cobra snake. So these snake charmers use roots to scare away snake or to subdue them. Now moving on to the next vegetable poison, that is Semecarpus anacardium, also known as Dhobie's marking nut or bhilava. So you can see the seeds of Semecarpus anacardium. So these marking nuts are generally heart-shaped blackish nuts with rough projection at base. The nut bears thick pericarp and contains brownish black acrid oily juice. It is used in India as a substitute for marking ink for clothes by washermen, also known as Dhobie's nut or Dhobie marking nut. The trees sometimes is called as ink tree. Toxic part of the plant is nut, while the toxic principle is bilevenol and semicarpol. Bilevenol is 15 to 17%, while semicarpol is 0.1%. Fetal dose is 5 to 10 gram, while fetal period is 12 to 24 hours. Clinical features. And these clinical features are divided into two categories. One, symptoms arising because of the dermal exposure, and the symptoms arising due to ingestion. First of all, talking about the dermal exposure, when applied to skin, it causes irritation, inflammation, vesication formation, pain and itching. The blister contains acrid serum. The skin lesion resembles contusion, and later on the lesion turn into ulcer and there will be sloughing of skin. Coming to the second category, that is ingestion of Semecarpus, then there will be blister formation in and around the oral cavity. There will be vomiting along with diarrhea and abdominal pain. Hypotension and shock can also be there along with delirium and coma. Treatment. So treatment is divided into two categories, whether there is a dermal exposure or another category if it is ingested. Now first coming to dermal exposure, that is if applied externally, then you have to wash it with lukewarm water. If patient has presented with suspected fabricated bruises, then preserve it for chemical analysis. And lastly, apply the antiseptics. If it is ingested, then do the gastric lavage, go for demulcents and preserve the gastric lavage for chemical analysis in all cases. Coming to the medico-legal importance, there can be accidental poisoning. Then juice is applied to external genitalia of female as punishment for infidelity. It is used to fabricate the bruise or wound. Then juice is also thrown over other person to cause harm or any injury. Its juice is also applied to the cervical os to procure the criminal abortion. And the skin lesion produced by the marking nut may be confused with contusion. Next vegetable poison is Capsicum annuum, also known as chili, red pepper or mirch. This small shrub bears tapering fruits which become red when ripe. The fruit contains small and flat yellowish seeds. The seeds resemble to datura seeds. There are two varieties. One is Capsicum annuum and another one is Capsicum frutescens. This Capsicum annuum is less hotter as compared to Capsicum frutescens. Toxic part is fruit as well as seed, while toxic principle is capsaicin and capsaicin. Talking about the clinical features, first the dermal exposure. There will be burning sensation or pain over the skin. Then we can have two things in case of dermal exposure. One is chilli burns and another one is Hunan hand. In chilli burns, person occupationally exposed to chili powder may have pain, irritation and erythema. While in case of Hunan hand, there is contact dermatitis due to chili. If we talk about the ocular exposure, then it causes pain, lacrimation, conjunctivitis, blepharospasm. If it is inhaled, then it causes cough, irritation. The cough is chili workers' cough. And lastly, the ingestion, there will be burning pain in mouth, there will be salivation, vomiting, abdominal pain as well as diarrhea. Treatment. For dermal or ocular exposure, irrigate with plain water or apply cold water or ice as well as give analgesia for pain. If it is ingested, then give sips of cold water or ice cubes as well as analgesia. If we talk about the medico-legal importance, first one is robbery. So this chili powder is thrown in eyes to facilitate robbery. Burning of chili powder by superstitious people to scare away ghosts and spirits. Pepper spray is also used by ladies in the West to drive away potential rapists. Homicidal asphyxia in children by forcibly introducing pepper in the nostril and mouth of unwanted young child. And lastly, there is something known as Hyderabadi Goli. It is nothing but a police torture. A lathi is liberally plastered with chili powder and is thrust up the victim's anus to extort the confession. Thank you.